Welcome to the tutorial Evaluating Websites. My name is Monica Lehman and I'm a librarian who is here to help you. We will go over how to evaluate websites for your scholarly research. After this tutorial, you will be able to determine which websites can fulfill your research needs. You will be able to perform checks on these websites. You will also be able to use what you have learned not only in your scholarly career, but also in life. People spend so much time on the internet and get a lot more of their information from websites than books, peer articles, and scholarly publications. It is important to know what information you can trust on the web. The internet is an open forum in which anyone can post anything, so researchers need to tread carefully. You may have heard that books, peer articles, and scholarly journals are the best places to find information for your research. There are reasons to check out websites for your information needs. First of all, you may be researching a topic that is so new that there are not any scholarly peer-reviewed articles on them. Experts in the field spend years testing out their theories, and then the following publication process can take a long time. You may want some information on the Zika virus, which doctors and scientists are still learning about. There are still tests being done in order to understand the virus, so there may not be scholarly peer-reviewed articles or books on the subject. Websites may be your best bet for a topic like that. You may also want a different perspective. Books and articles are written by the experts in their field. You may want information on how someone who is not an expert feels about an issue or situation. One of the best places to find editorials and opinions is on the internet. Your professor may have asked you for an unorthodox way of research. He or she may want you to find videos or how-to guides or information on Twitter, such as hashtagging or geotagging information. You may want to consider the internet in your search for information like that. Perhaps you want some basic information. Do you need the clarification on the date of an event or a famous person's name? You can check a website such as bio.com or wikipedia.com. You can always look at the citations at the bottom of Wikipedia pages to get ideas about where to look next for information or double-check the facts presented in the article. While the internet has some great websites that you can feel confident using for your information, there's also things to be aware of. Anyone can publish anything on the internet. Websites can be free and also can be really easy to make. Anyone can plug information into WordPress and publish it without having to be an expert at web design or an expert in their field. Even websites that look professional can contain false information. We've all been warned that anyone can edit Wikipedia pages, and even though they have people who monitor the pages and alert readers if a citation is needed, false information can still make its way onto the page. Information moves very quickly. Information can become outdated at a fast-paced rate, and websites are not always updated to keep up with new releases of information. Sometimes websites can be neglected for long periods of time and not updated. Here are some things to keep in mind when evaluating websites. When you're looking at websites, always consider who, when, and point of view. I will go over each of these in more detail and give you practical tips on how to determine whether or not a website is a reliable source of information. When you're thinking about a website's authority, ask yourself, who wrote the written content of the website? An individual or an organization? If you could spot the author's name, that's a good sign. You can also Google the author's name to learn more about him or her. If you can't find any information about the author, but they have their contact information listed, you can politely ask them for their credentials. If there's no author attached to the website, look up information about the organization itself. Also, check the URL. Is it a personal page? You can tell if a person's name is attached to the URL. Then look up the person and their credentials. If it's an organization's page, check out their information as well. It could be a fake page or belong to a fake organization. When checking the URL, remember that .org usually means nonprofit, .gov belongs to government pages, .com is used by companies, and .edu by universities and schools. These URLs can give you clues as to who is responsible for the website. So let's check the authority of this website. The address is martinlutherking.org. So that leads me to believe that this is sponsored by a nonprofit organization. As you can see, there's a picture of Martin Luther King right here. Up on top, it says attention students. So I'm thinking, oh, this might be a nice student-oriented website. On the sides, it says that there's historical writings, the truth, death of a dream, the holiday. So right now it looks kind of legitimate, but as I look even farther, I could see this weird link, why the King holiday should be repealed. That's kind of a red flag right there. If I look down even farther, I could see that this is hosted by Stormfront. So I'm going to Google what Stormfront is. And I can see that it's a white supremacist website. So they created a fake web page about Martin Luther King in order to lure people to their white supremacist website. I can see that it says white pride. It says that they're a community of racial realists and idealists, and I just see that this is just not the website I'm looking for. This is not good information. This is not reliable information, and I want to get out of here right away. This website is about 12 years old. The Huffington Post wrote an article about it because it was so misleading due to the .org and the original kind of layout of it. A lot of students were going to this website in order to get information, and a Huffington Post journalist actually asked a Google employee why these kinds of websites are allowed to be up there when they're so misleading, and they lead to a lot of offensive and awful information. And the reason that this website has been able to be up there is its web pages can exist on the web as long as they're not inciting people in order to do harm to others. And so that's part of our First Amendment's rights. We have free speech, and so that includes the freedom to post. So people, white supremacist groups and awful hate groups like that can post information about this. So definitely be aware that there are fake websites here that will try to bait people and get people in and try and get them to see false information. So just be aware of that. That something may look legitimate and may sound legitimate, but just make sure that you always follow up and look who is the authority, who's writing the website. The second thing you should always be aware of when checking websites is relevancy. You may find evidence that the page has not been updated in a long time, and therefore the information may be too old for your research. Here's some questions to ask yourself when you're looking at a page that seems old. When was the page last updated? You can often find that at the bottom of a website. Does any of the information seem outdated? Also look for dead links. Dead links are dead giveaways that the website hasn't been updated in a long time. So here's a website that I found that hasn't been updated in over a year. It's on the development and use of the Klingon language, which is a language that is derived from the TV show Star Trek. So as you can see at the bottom of the page was last modified on May 5th, 2015, so over a year ago. And this is when you have to ask yourself whether information on this webpage that's over a year old is too old for you to use. I don't know how many developments come along in the Klingon language, but if you're doing this as a topic, like say you're studying different ways that languages evolve, or your professor has asked you to look up languages that have developed out of pop culture, this is where you have to kind of think critically about whether this information is too old to use for your research. Lastly, check for objectivity. Is the point of view of the website biased or neutral? Is the author trying to convince you to believe one thing or another? Authors of scholarly research use evidence to prove their points, but some authors on the internet try to make their points by using exclamation points or extreme statements. If the website has says that one point of view is wrong or has an extreme tone in the content, be wary. It might be a website that is trying to sell you something, or a website that is trying to convince you to believe one thing or another. Also, be aware of lots of ads or websites that ask you for your information. Those are major red flags that you should be aware that this website is just trying to scam you. So here's an example of a website that is trying to get me to buy something. It's called the Institute of Delicious Whale Research. As you can see, it's a fake website. There's lots of ads popping up. My ad blocker isn't working right now. And it's right here. It says, new product, get your very own amateur whale research kit. Click to find out more. And it's a fake product, but it wants you to buy this very scientific looking whale research kit with a knife and a spoon and everything like that. So it's kind of a joke, but this could be, mistaken for a legitimate website because it has contact information. It's like the Japanese Institute of Research right here. So as you can see, this might be misleading, but this is kind of a famous example of a fake website that is trying to get people to buy this fake research kit. Another great tool you can use to help you determine the credibility of a website is Alexa.com. Here's the address, www.alexa.com. All you need to do is just copy and paste the URL of a website that you may be on the fence about. So I'm going to double check on the legitimacy of the Klingon website. So all I did is copy and paste. And it gives you some basic information just about how popular the website is, where do the visitors come from, if they come from Google or Wikipedia, what sites are related, and how you can find out more information. So they actually have contact information for the Klingon Language Institute. Another great tool is the Wayback. So you can see what the website looked like in the past. So let's say I wanted to see if the information is the same information as it was in 2011. So click on the date in 2011. And I could see what the website looked like in the past. And see if the information has changed or if it stayed the same. So this Alexa is a great tool to just kind of find out more information about the website and how it looked in the past, as well as some contact information. There's also some links here, like I can see that a while ago there was an article on CNN.com and they had a link to this website. So that also kind of having these external sources leading you to the website kind of validates its legitimacy as well. After all of your Googling, Alexing, contacting the author, and following the links, make sure that you take some time to take a step back and decide if the information you gleaned from the website will hold up. You can ask yourself the following questions. Why was this page put on the internet? What purpose does it serve? Is it someone's rant? Does the organization want to sell you something? Or does it have value as a source of information? Is the information as reliable as if you found it in a book, periodical, or journal? If not, you may want to ask yourself, what purpose does it serve in your research? It may seem overwhelming and a lot of work to determine whether these sources are reliable, but it is worth it in the end. Quality research builds on credible sources. Doing the research now on whether a source is reliable or not will save you a lot of time and trouble later if you find out that the information that you used for an assignment is incorrect. And as always, when in doubt, ask a librarian. Here's my contact information. Also, be sure to stop by the reference desk whenever it is open, and there will be a librarian on hand who can help you. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Here are the works that I consulted in preparation for the presentation, as well as the image citation.